Hello and welcome to the Ciao Bella Midnight Spell mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. All of the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website are linked in the description box below, so you can click on those links, purchase those products to follow along. Let's get started. In today's tutorial, we are going to begin decorating page 1, but before we do, I wanted to show you one thing that I did add to the cover, but after I had already uploaded the video for the cover. So I went ahead and added one piece of lace here down the edge on the back side to match the pieces of lace that I added here and here on the front cover. So that's it, just one little minor change. So if you want to go ahead and add that to your cover, if you added lace, then your book will look like mine. For page 1, I've decided not to add a ribbon closure here. I'm going to be placing a magnet instead. So I am going to be placing a little pull tab on my side. I have a piece of my silver ribbon just like on the front, and it's about 1 3/4 of an inch. I'm only going to be placing a little bit here on the front and a little bit on the back, but I don't want my loop to be too big. So I have this creased in the center. That way I know how big it's going to be. Place that there, and I want to make sure it doesn't stick off the edge of the page. Then I'm going to open up and apply my adhesive to the underside and fold this over. Once I have that on, I'm going to open up and place my first magnet. And I'm just going to place it right next to the end of my ribbon. Take the coordinating magnet and then close that flap. From this 8x8 paper, the first thing I did was just cut this strip off of the bottom. And then I cut this piece to 6 1/4 inches. And I'm going to be placing this right here in the center of my page, covering up that end. I have another piece of that trim like I put on the front cover, and I'm going to put a piece of my lace trim on each of my flaps on all of my pages, so it's the same size as this. And I'm going to do exactly what I did on the front cover and just place my adhesive right down the edge of the page so that the lace is hanging off the edge. From this 12x12 paper, I've cut out the card in the top left corner. Then I fussy cut around that piece with the flowers and just the Midnight Spell portion. I backed it on white cardstock and fussy cut out again. I'm going to be placing this here. But I'm also going to be placing a flower here for extra decoration. Now, I don't like these yellow centers. I think I mentioned in the supply video that I would probably be cutting these off. So I'm going to cut out the stamens, and I will be placing a pearl or a gem or something in the center of these flowers so that they match my collection a little bit better. I'm going to add my adhesive first to my fussy cut piece, and then when I go to place this on, I'm going to use that flower as a way to place this correctly, because I don't want that flower to be hanging over the edge of my flap. So I'm going to just take this together and place it on the page, making sure this whole thing is pressed down. Next, I'm going to just apply my adhesive to the back of the flower and put it in place. Now this is kind of lumpy, so it probably would have been best if I had waited until the end to put this on. So if you want to wait until the end after the inside flap is decorated, that would probably be a better option. It's usually what I do. I'm not sure why I didn't do it today. I will in future flaps when we start decorating things, but it's already on there, so I'm going to leave it for now. I'll come back afterwards and add my gem to the center. I have my little leftover piece from the part that we cut from the front. So I've cut this to 1 1/4 and it's 5 3/4 or 5 1/2. And I'm going to just place this here, covering the end of the ribbon and the magnet. And then from the 12 by 12 paper, I did go ahead and cut this piece to 4 1/2 by 7 3/4. And I'm going to place this here on this flap. We're going to start with this piece, and I've taken this 12 by 12 paper, and it was like this. So from the bottom corner, you're going to cut this to 5 1/4. And then I cut this at 6 inches so that I could get the saying on the paper. So this is 5 1/4 by 6 inches. Then I cut a 1/2 inch off the bottom because I wanted this part of the paper. I'll come back to these pieces in just a minute and we'll cut those next. This piece I'm going to place here right next to my score line. And then once it's on the page, I'm going to put adhesive here and here, and then I'm going to close this to form my pocket. Once I have my paper on and my pocket closed, I'm going to just place my photo mat right here in the pocket. If you followed any of my tutorials in the past, you've seen me do this before. A lot of times I will come back and decorate all of my photo mats at the very end in a final video. I am going to do that in this one just because I have so little paper that I want to make sure that I cover all of my bigger surfaces before I come in and cover my photo mats. So we will come back to this in a completely separate video. After I decorate all the pages, I will have like a finishing touches video where I will decorate these photo mats and the photo mats for the pockets. So we're going to come here next. We're going to come back to this paper here. I'm going to flip it over on the back side. And from this one, I have cut 2 pieces off of the bottom, and these measure 6 3/4 by 1 3/4. I'm going to place one here at the top and one here at the bottom. Then this is from the little fussy cut sheets. I'm going to use this side. It is cut to 4 1/4 by 6 inches. It's going to be here in the center. This will be the designated spot for the photo. And if you don't want to use these collectibles or these fussy cut sheets, you can substitute for a colored, like a plain colored cardstock, like a white or a cream, or not a white, but it wouldn't look good with the background. Like a cream or a light blue color would be fine, but I'm going to be using those papers. Then I have these 2 pieces, and they are from, I've just taken one of my fussy cut sheets, one of the yellow ones, and I've cut this down first to 4 1/4 by 6 and set this aside. I'll use that as a photo mat. Then I have these pieces from the leftover strip that I had. I just cut these to 3/8 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to place one here and one here. So we're going to be doing a paper piecing style as we go throughout the album. If you follow my tutorials here, or if you've ever bought any of my digital tutorials, my Etsy shop or my website, you'll know that I do prefer to do this paper piecing style. I haven't done it in a while for some of my tutorials, so I am definitely doing it for this one. I'm going to adhere all these papers on. And if you haven't done this before, the easiest way to actually do this is to start with this piece here and this piece here, making sure that you have that nice uniform white border around 3 sides. Then you want to place these 2 yellow pieces in. That way they are matching up with the sides. So your sides are straight, so you're completing that border here and the border here. Then you'll place your centerpiece in that little area with that border around it too. And the reason I do that is because you can slightly trim this if needed to fit that on there, and it will still be perfectly uniform on your page. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of these down, then we'll come over here and get started on these pieces. From the 12 by 12 paper that had all of these little cards on it, I've cut out these two and I've just cut them right around the edges. They are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. I'm going to be placing this one down here on my bottom flap and then this one up here on my top flap. Then opening up on the inside, I've cut 2 more of them. I've just taken the 2 with the crowns. I'm going to be using them on the back side. I'm going to place 1 on the upper flap, 1 on the lower flap. And then I had this leftover strip. These are from the Fussy cut sheets. This paper looked like this. I had a strip of it left over from, I believe it was on the photo mat on the front cover of the album. I've cut these to 1/2 inch by 3 3/4. On the bottom photo mat, I'm going to place this strip right at the bottom of my yellow paper. And then on the one on the top flap, I'm going to place this here right on the top of my paper, just to give it a little bit of extra color. And then for the center, from the 12 by 12 paper, I've cut my piece to 4.5 by 7 3/4, and I'll be placing this here. Once all of those flaps are covered, you can go ahead and close up that page. We will come back to the front of this to add some of the pearls after we finish on the back side so that it doesn't add more bulkiness to the pages when decorating. And another thing that I will sometimes do is open the flap like this so my page will sit flatter. Just a little trick for you as we are decorating this side of the page. Before I start on the back side, I'm actually going to trim a little bit off of this flap. I don't want it to be all the way towards the bottom, at the bottom of the page, because I'm going to put that little tab on it. So I'm going to trim 1/2 inch off of this. So I have my paper trimmer here, and I'm just going to line this up with 1/2 inch. So I'm going to hold this in place so it doesn't move, and then take that 1/2 inch off. Now I have one of my little silver ribbons for the pull tab, and I'm just going to place a little bit of adhesive on both sides, and then I'll add my ribbon in a loop. I want to make sure that it doesn't go off the bottom edge of the page, which is why I actually trimmed my page a little bit. And now with this 8 by 8 paper, I've cut this first to 6 inches. Then I've cut this to 7 1/4 inches. So 6 inches by 7 1/4. And I'm going to be placing this here on the front of my flap. I have my piece of lace trim that is the same size as my flap, so I'm going to adhere this onto the bottom edge of my flap, just like I have done on previous pages. So just adding my adhesive to the edge, right where the edge of that paper is, and the border around it. Then I'm going to open up on the inside here. I'm going to move my end of my ribbon a little bit. It's not quite where I need it to be. Okay, that should be better. Now I'm going to place my magnet right at the end of my ribbon end. Then I'll place the coordinating magnet on top and close that flap to place my second magnet. From the 12 by 12 paper with all of the cut apart cards on it, I've cut these two pieces, and I've cut them down a little tiny bit smaller than they were on the top and the bottom. So these measure 4 inches by 5¼ inches. And I'm going to place the frame one here and then this one here on the fronts of my cards. From this 12 by 12 paper, I've gone ahead and cut from the right-hand side 2 pieces for the back. They measure 4 inches. I cut this to 10½. Then I cut this into 2 pieces that are 5¼ by 4 inches. And I'm going to place one of these on each of the inside flaps. Once these flaps are covered, we're going to start in here. So first I have these 2 pieces, and they are from this 12 by 12 paper. And I believe it was across the top here. So this was a strip here across the top. And I've cut this to 12 inches by 1½ inches. Then I've taken the 12-inch piece and cut it in half. So these are 6 inches by 1½ inches. And I have to decide which one I'm going to place where. I think I might place it this way. Then I have my fussy cut sheet, and I cut this down to 4¼ by 6 inches. I'm going to place that right here in the center. So like I mentioned before, I'll place the top and bottom strips first to give me that border, and then I will place the mat in the center. Once those are covered, I'm going to go ahead and come down here into the bottom. I've cut 2 pieces for this. The first one is from the 8 by 8 paper, this one here. And I've gone ahead and cut this to 6 3/4 by, I believe, 5½. Yep, 6 3/4 by 5½. And I'm going to place this here at the top portion of my page. Then once that is on, I'm going to apply a line of adhesive down both sides of my pocket, and I'm going to close this to form my pocket. And then I have this strip here. So from my 12 by 12 paper, I've gone ahead and cut this piece to 6 3/4 by 2¼ inches. So 2¼ by 6 3/4. And I will apply this here to the front of the pocket. Now I have my 2 photo mats for my pocket. I did mention as we were building it that I was going to be placing a brad here so that these swivel, but I'm going to decorate those later, so we will do that step in a different video. Now all of our papers are on. We're going to go ahead and build up a little bit on the front here, and then we'll flip over and finish up the other side. From my flowers, I'm going to be using this white one. I'm taking the center out of this flower like I did with the blue one on the back side. And I'm also going to be using one of my chipboard flourishes. Now, a tip for getting these out of the piece that they're in, there are little teeny tiny pieces, tabs holding them in. So using a craft knife, or I've got one of the craft knives like this that I can use, it'll be really helpful just to slice that little tiny piece that's holding it in, and then you'll be able to drop them out a lot easier without breaking these pieces. I'm going to be layering my chipboard piece up here with my flower. So I want it to be kind of up in the corner, right above where it says Once Upon a Time. So I'm just going to move it around until I like the look of it, and then I do have some of my pearls that I'm going to place in the center. First, I need to place my chipboard, so I'm going to add my adhesive. If you have adhesive with a tiny little tip on it, you can use that too. I do have one on my desk. I just don't ever think to use it. So I'm just using my tacky glue for this. And then I'm going to bring this back here with my flower and just kind of eye it where I want it to go. Then I'll place my adhesive on my flower and the leaf. And I'll layer it right on top of my chipboard piece. Once I have my flower on, I'm going to go ahead and add some Fabri-Tac for the center. And I like the smaller size of my pearl for this particular flower, so I'm just going to place that right there in the center. I did decide to go ahead and place some of those little teeny tiny blue pearls that I had used on my cover on my flourish. I may come back in here and do these ones later on. I haven't decided yet. And then I've also added a couple of little pearls down where the buttons were on his coat, in addition to the white pearl that I have in the center of my flower. So now that I have this side finished, I'm actually going to open this up to allow this to sit flat and dry while I come over here and work on the front of the first page. So I've got my pearl here that I'm going to be placing in the center of my blue flower. And then I'm going to go and add some of those little tiny blue pearls. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to ring this or maybe I'll put them on the shoe. So I will come back and show you how I decided to add some additional pearls. I did decide to go ahead and add pearls across this kind of border strip piece behind the shoe, and then I've added them around the circular part around Midnight Spell. This is all for the page for now. Like I mentioned before, we will come back in another video and add to those photo mats to completely finish the page. So that is it for this tutorial. And if you're just joining the tutorial series, don't forget to check the links in the description box below where you can pick up the Midnight Spell papers as well as the flowers, and the link is also there for the chipboard pieces if you want to purchase those from my shop. I'll see you in the next tutorial.